Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome to Around the Kitchen Table, a space for honest conversations, stories from the heart, and gentle reminders that we're all walking each other home. I'm Laura Island, mother, creative, soul-led CEO of Sacred Sister CIC, and the woman behind Wise Sacred Woman. I'm a witch with ADHD, and this podcast is where we gather to share the real, raw, and radiant parts of life. Each week, we'll explore what it means to live in rhythm with ourselves, with nature, and with one another. We'll talk about womanhood, sisterhood, creativity, leadership, spirituality, and the messy magic of being a human. So pour yourself a cuppa, get comfy, and let's meet here around the kitchen table, where stories are medicine and every voice belongs. Hey, sister. Take a big breath with me as we kind of land here today. I am sitting on my sofa, kind of facing the wrong way, looking out the window, leaning into kind of the fact that I don't feel great today. I don't feel I look great today. I'm putting off kind of showing up. It's already 11:30. I normally record the podcast early in the morning. And looking out the window at all the kind of changing colours of autumn. I've got a fire lit behind me. Just about to see that if you're watching on screen. And all of that's like a bit bollocks, really. Just gonna be real. Like, why do I care? Why do I care so much? How I look, how I show up. And so that's gonna frame this week's podcast as we lean into what looks to now be part 2 of healing the sister wound, which is kind of like the remembering, really. You know, last week we talked about the sister wound and why we don't trust each other and why connection can feel really unsafe, even when we long for it more than anything else. But this week we're going to go a little bit deeper because awareness is kind of only the first step, but healing, real embodied healing, that's the kind of next layer. And I'm here for it. And that's where the kind of remembering begins. So let's just take a breath. Take a breath with me into the nose and out through the mouth. Because some of this might smart a little bit. So grab the tissues if you need to. But I know that you've felt it too, haven't you? That ache when you desperately want to trust, but your body tenses. When you crave deep connection, but something inside whispers, oh, not yet. So this episode is for the part of you that's ready to soften again, for the part that's tired of carrying the armour, and for the part that remembers, even if only faintly, what true sisterhood feels like, because it lives in our bones. It's ancient and it's calling us back home. This week, you may have seen some of my social media in the last couple of days. If you're inside the sanctuary in the community, you've definitely heard me share this story. But I sent out last week's Friday Whispers of the Hearth, which is our newsletter that comes out every week. And on Wednesday, I sent out a little reminder about the Sister Wound workshop that's coming up next week, because it's really important to me. It's really important to me that we gather as many women as possible on that call. And that feels really powerful and potent when I speak to it. It's not really so much a desire of mine as a kind of desire of the universe right now, especially in this Scorpio season with the dark goddesses and the space where we're like really looking at the wounds. And Scorpio really calls us in our truth. And so this lady sent me a message and she basically just literally said, I don't need your neediness in my inbox. And I was like, okay. So I just sent her a reply and I said, neediness, question mark. If I've triggered you in any way, feel free to, email and let me know. And the message I got back was basically like all about spiritual bypass and how I hadn't triggered her. And that spiritual bypassing was me making out that it was all about her, not about me. And like, if I'm not open to feedback, then fine. She's unsubscribed from everything anyway. And I was a little bit like, it became a real character assassination. And let me tell you now, if you're listening to this or watching this, I am absolutely 100% open to feedback. 100%. Message me. Tell me that you've got something to share with me. Invite me into a consensual conversation that says, hey, are you open to some feedback? I've got some things to share with you. And then let me be ready to hear that and to receive that. That's firstly the kind of level of communication I want with anybody. But it carried on and it carried on until, I just was like, what am I even doing? And it was great because whenever something stirs me from the universe and says, come on, we're going to do this week. Now, let me just tell you that about me, right? I don't sit here and dream up, what am I going to share this week? ChatGPT and I don't have a conversation and go, hey, what's this week's podcast? Like literally, it kind of lands in me like a wave that says, okay, now is the time. And sometimes the outside world shows me. A little while ago, someone says to me, why on earth are you doing a podcast on top of everything else you do? A podcast takes it's a business in itself. It takes time and energy to build up. And it's like, well, I've got to start somewhere, right? If only one person listens, then maybe it'll make a difference to them. So I'll just start. And I quite enjoy it. In fact, I didn't quite enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I enjoy talking to myself on a Friday morning. What does that say about me? Um, because actually I do know that some of you are listening, and I do know that this is making an impact, and I feel like this is something. It's like my little energetic stamp in the world that says I'm here and I'm showing up, and I'm going to continue to show up. So I digress as always with my ADHD menopausal brain. So yeah, anyway, when something is moving me, it moves me in so many ways. It shows me in so many ways. I'm in a funk with my husband right now. And part of that is some stuff that's going on between him and I, but also part of it is my old wounding and my old patterns that need to be seen right now because, you think you do all the work and then there's like, whoa, here's another layer. So, I really want to kind of speak today to the cost of carrying like this wound. When we live inside the sister wound for too long, it becomes our normal. Now, like, let's not just consider that we all know that we're living in a sister wound. We are, all of us, because we carry our DNA from our ancestry, and it started long before we came along. But it's hard to recognize because it's so the norm. Most of us grew up on EastEnders and drama, right? Like when there's drama and chaos in our outside world, for many of us it feels normal. Our nervous systems are sadly used to that. So when we live inside it and we live with it, it is our normal. And we tell ourselves we're fine on our own. Who's super uber independent out there and they're fine? And we call independence strength, where it's like, we big up, yes, I'm strong and independent. And we wanted that as women, right? But it doesn't always fit the whole picture because sometimes it's just loneliness with lipstick on, right? So we stop asking for help and we shrink when another woman shines. We keep our ideas small because we've learned what happens when we stand out. And even when we're surrounded by other women at work, in circles, online, it still doesn't feel safe to fully exhale because safety isn't about proximity, it's about trust. I work with many women, as you know, and I'm working right now with a sister who's a nurse. I work with many nurses. They come to me for lots of different reasons, but one of them is that they work predominantly in a female-led environment, or a female kind of environment where, you know, they work with alongside other women, but those situations are high pressured and can be really nasty. Rather than lean in for support, there's that competitive edge, even in those scenarios, because we don't trust each other. So, you know, trust is the first thing the sister wound takes from us. And it's not then just how we trust each other, it's how we trust ourselves, how we trust our relationships. We start to believe that closeness will always end in betrayal somehow, and that it's better to stay self-sufficient than to risk being disappointed again, or worse still, rejection. But the truth is, when we do that, we cut ourselves off from one of the deepest medicines that's available to us, and that's the medicine of sisterhood itself. So the question becomes, how do we begin to trust again when the wound still hurts and aches? And how do we open the door when our body remembers what happened last time? What does healing really look like? Healing the sister wound isn't about pretending it never happened. It's not about, you know, lifting the carpet, sweeping it under and hoping it's going to be okay when we put the carpet down out. It's about really honoring the ache and choosing differently anyway. And it starts in the smallest moments. You know, when you offer another woman a genuine compliment and mean it. Have you done that recently? Like, I love it. I love complimenting women. It freaks them out. They don't know how to take it mostly. None of us are very good at saying thanks. You know, I'm renowned for somebody saying, "Oh my God, your dress is amazing," and I'll be like, "Oh, what, this whole thing I picked it up in the charity shop for 50p." Like, I play down everything rather than just saying thank you, because I don't think it's genuine. I don't know why they're being nice. I feel like, what are you leading me into? What, like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So when you offer a woman another woman a genuine compliment and really mean it, it comes with that energy that says, you know, hey, I see you. When you let yourself be supported instead of always being the strong one, you know, that's a powerful moment. I have a beautiful sister who recently messaged me and said, I was like, hey, should we get together and have a cuppa? And that's not my norm. Like, I keep myself busy. I'm a busy person, because then I can avoid dealing with anything that I actually need to deal with. So I'm trying to change that this year at 50. I'm like, right, what does that actually really look like? What does 50 really look like? What do I want this phase of my life to look like? And one of those things is to call in some really strong, rounded sisters, um, and to be open to receiving what's there. And so I was like, should we meet up for coffee? And she was like, why don't you come down and stay at mine? Come and just have a night at mine. It's just the most amazing house. Just have a night to yourself. Just, I was like, whoa, what would that feel like, just to say yes to that? So I have, and I did. And yeah, it's like, I know that that's a level of support. That means I can lean in. You know, what happens when you speak your truth softly instead of swallowing it down? When you actually, rather than wait till you're really angry and on the edge, how do you speak your truth from a place of grounded, centered, feminine softness, not wussy softness, but actually really clear and direct, instead of swallowing it down because you think that's not going to land, or maybe that's not going to be safe. So healing begins the moment we notice the old pattern, we take a breath and we choose love instead of fear. Those are the only two things underlying everything else, is love or fear. That's it. That's it. So if we're dealing with anger, we're dealing with rage, we're dealing with sadness, underneath those things are fear. And if we choose love, looking at the tooty person outside, very friendly tooty person. Anyway, distraction, come back. When you choose love instead of fear, then it means that we can choose a different way. Many of the times we forget that we even have choice. But it doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in spaces where we belong, because we heal relational wounds in relationship, not in solitude. I hear so many times, I've done so much work on this. My husband would laugh if he listens to this right now because he's renowned for saying, if I say to him, can you do some work on that? He'll be like, well, you do the work. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm doing the work. I've been doing the work for years on my own, by myself. So no shit when you get into a relationship, does it all come up and hit you in the face? If we were sat in circle right now, I'd be like, raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. I know that you do. Whether that's relationship with another woman, whether that's relationship in a romantic way, whether that's romantic, whether that's a relationship in a colleague way, like those relationships will always be the place that we heal the relational wounds. And that's why circle matters. When women sit together in truth, something really ancient wakes up. Our nervous systems remember the rhythm of safety. I just took a call and now I can't remember where I got to. Apologies for that. What were we talking about? We were talking about, let me make sure I can, I'm more there. We were talking about why circles matter. When women sit together in truth, something really kind of ancient wakes up and our nervous systems really begins to remember the rhythm of safety. We're each other's reflection. Really sweetly, the call I've just taken was with another woman who, it's been hard to lean in and to trust that connection. And yet when I need to begin to trust and soften in myself, I've seen women who came in guarded in circles, quiet, folded into themselves, and within an hour they're laughing through their tears and realizing that they don't have to hide anymore. And that's what happens when kind of presence replaces performance, when we can really come into that deeper presence. So make sure that I've got my train of thought back together. So how do we do it? How do we do it? How do we walk this path together? How do we begin to feel safe enough to lean in? And for me, the path of remembering is like 3 stages. So first of all, we have to see it. We have to see the wound. We've already begun that part. We've started to talk about it. We've started to, name the patterns by witnessing kind of where they live within us. And that's not about blame, it's about awareness. I want to share with you, I'm just going to put it up on my computer so I can see. It's like 10 powerful ways that the sister wound shows up. So, comparison and competition. So if we're looking at really seeing it, right? Comparison and competition, that's the voice that whispers, why her and not me? And measures our worth against another woman's light. The distrust of other women, the belief that closeness will end in gossip, betrayal, or judgment. So we stay a little bit guarded because we may have had those experiences before. Comes out as people pleasing, the compulsion to earn love by being the helper, the peacemaker, the rescuer, the one who never says no. It's the fear of being seen. So hiding your gifts, your voice. I'm massively like, that's one of my big wounds is the fear of being seen. So I'm hide my gifts and that sounds silly, right? Because I show up here. How can I feel that way? But it's a lot for the very thing I spoke about earlier, that somebody may call me out on something or tell me that I'm acting a certain way, even if it's not really true. So it's hiding our gifts, our voice or our power, because somewhere we've learned that it's safer to stay small. That also then features down into the witch wound, when we speak out. Hard one. The rolling eyes, quiet criticism, mirroring the same standards that once hurt us. So we become the internalized critic, the kind of judger. Isolation disguised as independence, that I'm fine on my own armor that hides a really deep loneliness beneath the surface. And the fear of conflict, swallowing your truth to avoid rejection, choosing harmony over honesty. The motherline wounds, so, the patterns that were absorbed from our mothers and grandmothers, silence, rivalry, or self sacrifice. Sisterhood sabotage, not retreating, sorry, recreating betrayal and rupture in friendships until we consciously choose to stop the cycle. And number 10 is disconnection from body and cycle. So we forget, we're forgetting our natural rhythm, our intuition. We lose touch with the very essence that connects us to the feminine and to each other because we're too afraid of what might happen if we do. So we started to really see the wound. So then we have to sit with the ache when we really see it. It's like, how do we really sit with how it feels? Healing doesn't mean like we're rushing to fix it. You're not broken. We don't need to fix it. You don't need a big fat plaster on it to stop you from hemorrhaging. You just need to recognize it's happening. And it means holding it really gently, saying, I see you. You kept me safe once, but I'm ready to live differently now. Like really recognizing the wound that comes up. That's just a part of you. And that part of you is there to keep you safe. This is the work of compassion for yourself. It's not just about others. It's like, where is the compassion for yourself? And then the third part of this is really returning to connection. Where we rebuild trust one moment at a time by showing up, by listening, by allowing other women to see our humanity. Because, when we really soften the edges and we invite others to do the same, that's when our heart opens just a little. And that's how we really begin to heal the wound. So I have an invitation for you. I've shared it a bit now. I don't care if you're bored of it and if it makes me sound needy, to be fair, not bothered, because I want you to come and hang out with me next week. The circle is opening. We're beginning something so powerful, and I can't do it by myself. I've got this number in my head of 333, and I want to get to that number, and we're not there yet. And I'd love you to be there. And that means I'd love you to share this podcast, share the invitation, invite your sisters. Let's not get scared anymore of like, oh, well, they might not be interested. Who cares if they're interested or not, right? This affects every single woman walking the planet right now. And if it affects you walking the planet right now, it affects the relationships that you have. It affects the relationships around you. It affects the relationships with your friends and family, and therefore it affects men as well. So this wound has to start to heal. It has to. And, if you've been listening and nodding along, or you kind of get those shivers of recognition, I don't call them goosebumps anymore, I call them truth bumps. This is your moment to say yes. It's not a course. It's not about doing more. It's not even about showing up at the right time. Like if you can be there at 11:11 on those 3 days, it will be powerful to be in the container live. And if you can't, you can watch the recordings. It's fine. It's really about remembering who you are beneath the armor. That's why I've started to call it free to be me. It's like for you to totally be you. Can you imagine if all those wounds are healed? So over those 3 days, we're going to walk through together a deepening of your story of the sister wound and how it shaped your life. The release when we get to really let go of what's not yours to carry anymore. So we get to really acknowledge it and see it and feel it. And then the restoration, the remembering that we're not alone and we never were. And this is how we come back into deeper sisterhood. So there's daily guidance, there's meditations, there's space to connect with other women, there's our daily live, and these women will be just like you. There'll be women who are really ready to trust again, to soften again, and to come home. And you don't have to be spiritual, and you don't have to have all your shit together. You just have to feel the whisper inside that says, do you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready to at least show up and open the can and look inside. Because it's not about learning something new. It's about really remembering something ancient. And when women remember together, we rebuild the village. So if you are feeling it too, the ache, the longing, the pull, come and join me. It's free, it's sacred, and it really is time. You can sign up. You'll find the link anywhere in these show notes or wherever this is shared. But basically, sacred-sister.co.uk to our website, and you'll find the details there under events. So I'll see you in circle, sister. It's time that we begin to really remember together. I'll catch you soon. Laura out.